When something doesn't initially go the way that you expected or wanted or aimed for it to go, it can be really hard to sort out what went wrong or why did it not go that way. And that's kind of where I am with my business. And this is completely unrehearsed, so it's going to be very candid. It might be a little bit jumbled. 292 days ago, I did look that up. It's in the title of my most recent video, which is called Day One, Take Two. Because 292 days ago, approximately, give or take a day, depending on whether you include today in that count or not, December 15th of last year, I restarted my business and I framed it that way, put it out on YouTube that way. This is me completely restarting my business with this $800 van. It was a Ford E150 and it was a freaking great van. I took it for granted a little bit. I guess I'm already jumping in here into the things that may have contributed to everything going the way it did. So, E150, $800. It needed a starter as it had 350,000 miles on it, but it seemed to have been very well taken care of. It had been under the same ownership for quite a long time. And I was skeptical for a while as to, just how good he did take care of it. But looking back on it, I think he took very good care of it, or it wouldn't have done as well as it did. And I want to be clear up front, because this is part of the discussion here. That van and I, working together, I guess, I did very well with that van when I first started the business or restarted the business. I did see money come in and come together very quickly, and I saw very rapid growth of funds. And I wanted to transition that growth of funds into growth of the business itself. And I think that rushing into that process is a big part of what I'm going to say went wrong, or maybe didn't get me to the outcomes that I could have or otherwise gotten to more quickly. But at the same time, even though I want to frame this as a hard restart, and it really is because I'm working with a completely new vehicle, not new at all. It's a 2003 Honda Odyssey with no hitch on it. So I'm working with a vehicle that is not nearly as well equipped as that E150 was, that Econoline van, which I think was also 2003 actually. It is a hard restart, but at the same time it isn't, because no matter how much you try to segment off a piece of the story and a piece of the narrative, it always has everything that came before it in there too. You can't take it out. It's really for the sake of storytelling that you take it out. You don't want to be you don't want to be one of those people who writes a blog about their favorite brownie recipe, but it starts, with when their grandfather was born. So you have to just decide, okay, I'm starting the story here. This is day one. Or at least that's what I'm choosing to do as a matter of convenience and not because it's actually truly day one. There's a whole lot of experience. There are investments that may not have played out the way I wanted them to, but still, had some sort of impact in one way or another. There's both good and bad that's carrying over from the days that happened before day one. Excuse me. So um, that can't be eliminated. It needs to be stated for the sake of honesty and the sake of accuracy, but at the same time, for the sake of convenience, I am framing this as a new day one. And in some senses it is, because even if I was moving from something completely unrelated to shipping, transporting, delivery, anything like that, even if I was moving from a career that was completely unrelated, I would still be taking with me things that were both good and bad. And those things would probably be pretty much the opposite of what I have right now. Because what I have right now coming out of this background of multiple years of working towards making shipping work for me as a profession, or at least as a way of making money. What I actually have is a lot of debt related to it, and I'm going to be honest about that in this video as well. But what I have going, that's what I have against me. What I have for me as a result is a little bit of equipment that I could, try to do some sort of elaborate sale process to myself, which is what I did the first time around, which I don't think was necessarily a bad idea, but I think um, it did discourage me from making full use of what I had developed before day one. I felt like I had to have some sort of transaction to make it legitimate. And the reality is that I didn't need to do that because, for example, if I'd come from a different career path, probably what I would have is very likely less equipment related to transport, but more capital, more money saved, which obviously would benefit me through the ability to buy equipment. So you can't erase what happened before day one. And if you try to, and get obsessed with trying to somehow like uh, you just to somehow like equalize all that somehow and like do what I did, which was sell things from my former business to my new business, and have an actual transaction take place. I think it just muddies the waters. And the reality is that no matter where you are and who you are, when you go into any kind of business, you're going to use the assets that you currently have to your advantage. And you're also going to have to deal with whatever baggage you currently have, whatever it is. Whatever those assets are, you're going to use them if you're smart. And whatever that baggage is, you're going to have to deal with it no matter what. So, um, I think that to try to overthink that, like I'm doing right now as I'm trying to express it, is just not helpful. And I'm not going to do it this time. But the really big thing, which is related, that impacted me the last time was that I went into the business, I went into that hard reset or restart with the attitude that my focus is on making money. I don't need to check any boxes besides the box of having my effort and my time result in money coming in. And then I got distracted by things that I had told myself I wouldn't get distracted by. One, and I also got distracted by the money coming in. I allowed the fact that money was coming in to make me feel like I could afford this, that, and the other. And all of that was with the goal and intention of rapid business growth. I think that there is something to be said for rapid business growth. And I think that, as someone who's kind of built a business up fairly impressively from very little multiple times, but then also had that be my downfall as well. Um, I still come at it with the mindset of growing the business rapidly and taking risks and reinvesting at a very high rate back into the business. Still feel good about that basic mindset, but I do think it can be tempting to push just a little too hard and just a little too fast. And I also felt obligated to utilize the assets that I had in ways that weren't necessarily beneficial to me. And what I mean by that is I had, and also to feel pressured to prepare for something and make those preparations under pressure rather than with intentional decision making and a willingness to fail. I think a willingness to fail is important Because if you are succeed at all costs, it might actually cost you everything, right? You have no upper limit on what you're willing to spend, and then you also do that in a rush, end up making bad decisions. Let me be more specific here. I started off with the van. Everything was going great with the van. I had a couple $1,000s set aside before I knew it. And then I decided to work towards a couple of things. One, I decided to start making payments on my pickup truck again. I had resolved to let the pickup truck go. This was a 2019 F-150. I was underwater on it. I knew that, that situation isn't going to be good no matter what, but I was like, the cost is not worth the asset. I need to let it go. And yes, it will be something that I have to deal with later, but at least I could really work towards just putting some money together so that it can be something I just deal with in one big lump payment rather than struggling along and seeing all of my capital, all of my potential to focus on purchasing the things that I really need for my business. If I throw that at this truck that's not really benefiting me, and I really tried to justify how it would benefit me. But the reality is I never needed that truck, not for a single thing that I had committed to do over the last 292 days. There's not a single one of them that the truck improved my ability to do, and there are a few that it really lessened my ability to do, and I can explain that very easily. The van offers a much larger enclosed space than the truck ever did or ever would, and there were a few jobs for which that enclosed space would have been much better. The truck offers a much higher towing capacity. That seems important. That felt very important. But there was no job that I couldn't have approached with the E150 van. So, um, then, when you start throwing your money into something that doesn't really benefit you or move your business forward or, have result in an increase in incoming money that is, that exceeds the increase in outgoing money, that holds you back because the goal is for exponential growth. And when you're just throwing your money kind of away on a monthly basis or a regular basis, then you don't have the opportunity to invest that money in ways that might actually lead to that exponential growth based on what your business actually needs. And it's really tempting to just kind of use what you have instead of asking yourself, what does my business actually need? So the truck became a source of outgoing money. And then I had the truck. I had a job lined up to pull an airplane from Alaska to Minnesota. Great job, really cool job, really glad I took the job. But at the same time, the way I approached it was, okay, get the truck and get a big trailer. Well, around the same time, somebody who I had sold a houseboat and corresponding trailer to wanted to sell that houseboat and trailer back to me, and I wasn't in a good position to purchase it. So I decided to make an agreement with him and start making payments on that. Long story short, the total purchase price for both was $6,500. The purchase price for the trailer itself and alone was $1,500. I made sure to arrange that so after $1,500 I would own that trailer, so I didn't have to wait to pay everything off to start using the trailer. And I did use that trailer to pull that airplane back from Alaska with that truck. It's a really big, heavy trailer, and so it did require that truck to pull it. But the airplane itself weighed less than 1,000 pounds. maybe it was 1,500. I don't remember the exact number he gave me, but it was a very small number. I think it was 900 pounds, airplane, wings, engine, propellers, everything, 900 pounds. It was just long. It was probably over 20 feet long. Um, and it can be hard to find a trailer that is that big, but is not itself heavy. Because most big trailers are made for heavy things, so they are themselves very heavy duty. But it's not impossible to find a big trailer that is that long and could have accommodated that item that would not have itself been heavy. And that would have been something I could pull with the E150 Econoline van, which had a towing capacity of about 5,000 pounds. Absolutely could have pulled a trailer and the airplane with that van. It just would have had to be a lighter trailer. And this is where I say you can't have the fear of failure, because I knew that trailer was attainable to me. I knew I could do it. And I didn't know for a fact that I'd find and be able to purchase a lighter trailer. So what did I do? I took on the expense, $1,000 a month, of beginning payments on that truck again. I took on $500 a month paying for the trailer and houseboat. And I did have the option to stop paying at any time once I paid off the trailer and just give up the houseboat. I didn't really have that intention, and I haven't done that, which is another thing that happens, is that sense of obligation that you place on yourself to do certain things that are not the most beneficial things to you or your business. Anyways, $500 a month for that. And then the last thing was, I really wanted to have FMCSA certification, to have a DOT number, to have an MC number, to have commercial insurance. I wanted all of that before pulling the plane back from Alaska to Minnesota. And I did my very best good faith effort at getting all of that. And there was a consistent glitch in the website, which is ultimately what prevented me from moving forward with it. And I have a video about it. I'm not going to try to go into details here, but I do assure you I took every possible step on my part to complete everything properly and have that all done. One of the things that I did to make that possible, and it would have been possible through a couple other ways, but I thought I felt better about doing it this way, I started renting an apartment. Because I live on site at a different workplace, and I don't want to have my business address be my home address here, because this is itself a separate business and it's a nonprofit organization, and I don't want to entangle what I'm doing on my own on the side apart from this with this place here. I just don't think it's fair to this place that employs me. And that employs me to do things related to what they do here, and that has nothing to do with what I'm doing outside of that time. So it's really not important, I don't think, to have a separate business address just to have a business at all. But when it comes to the FMCSA certification and a government agency, at that level, certifying my business and a DOT number and everything else, I just felt like that should be connected to a separate address. So that became $700 a month. And not only that, but a $1,400, upfront payment plus the first month, because there was security deposit. First month, last month, I went in on this with somebody, which caused all of its own complications. But besides those complications, we have $2,100 right there. We have the first 3 payments on the trailer, which I couldn't, use that trailer without making. So there's, we're already at $3,600. Then we have the payment on the truck, probably a couple payments on the truck by the time I left, $5,600 before I even left for Alaska, paid to do things in a certain way because of pressure or obligation, some placed on me from the outside and some which I placed on myself. To me, that was the biggest flaw in how I approached everything, was the mindset of like obligation to use what I already have, obligation to upgrade super quickly because it looks better or whatever. I don't really know. But just kind of the sense of like, okay, what I'm using isn't good enough. I need to spend a whole bunch of money to get other things. And I'm gonna let my fear of losing the truck, of having, having them come after me, which they would do and which would have to be dealt with. That doesn't mean that I need to approach it fearfully and, let that kind of let me pressure myself into keeping that truck as a result. All these complications that made it take longer, made it less efficient, made it less effective ultimately to do the jobs that I had ahead of me. $5,600, more than enough to go find a 24-foot snowmobile trailer with 2 axles that van can pull to Alaska and back and just be done with it. And put all that money in my pocket in my business bank account instead of into equipment that I didn't really need for my business. Equipment that, yes, was appealing in one way or another, but that I did not really need. And then when I sit down and I do the math now, and I'll try to tie this up here because there's not a whole lot else to say beyond this. When I do the math now, all the monthly payments that I spent over the last 292 days, better part of a year, all those monthly payments combined together come out to about $17,000. And that is very rough mental math, but I'm confident that it's around the sorry, if I said 1700, I meant 17,000. $17,000 that I put into things I never really used, because although I used the truck, I didn't need to use the truck. The same things could have happened, and some of them would have happened better with the van. So there's all of that, and then I was in an accident with the truck, so it ended up being something that I didn't get ongoing value out of anyways, and I'm still in the exact same situation that I tried to avoid, with still owing money on it and not having the vehicle and blah blah blah. So that happened. That's that. I just sold the trailer. I just hauled it off to the buyer, who is the person I delivered the airplane to. Hi, Bo. Appreciate you. So that's gone. All that money that I put into that, and I can add more money there. We're at $5,600. I spent like $1,000+ on getting modifications to that trailer done before I even took it to Alaska. I spent $500 more on the decking for it that I built onto it in Alaska. I spent money on all the tools that I used while I was doing that in the remote Alaskan wilderness, i.e., the parking lot of a hotel in Wasilla, Alaska. And all of that money, probably approaching really like actually $10,000. I could have had my pick of trailers, but let's not dwell on that. The fact is, the FMCSA DOT number, MC number, that never panned out, like I said, because there's just, I'm gonna say it, that system is not well managed, in my opinion, in my experience. And despite trying my best to follow through with that, ultimately I wasn't able to, and the reason was because of a specific document that didn't apply to me and that wasn't provided on the site, but was still being erroneously um, claimed by the website as necessary in order for the application to go through. Again, I've made a video on it. I could make another video on it. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on it. The point is, all of those things that I focused on, the apartment that I rented almost solely for the purpose of pursuing this DOT number, all of that, mostly wasted money. I'm not going to say there wasn't some benefit to having the apartment, having some storage space, and I was paying over $200 a month for storage prior to that, but it was still, a significant leap upward from there. So, and there could have been ways to resolve that, to consolidate and decrease the monthly cost rather than increasing the monthly cost. So bottom line, all those things really didn't come out to anything other than ongoing monthly payments that I didn't need to be making. And this is, sorry, runny nose here. I don't know, seasonal allergies, mold, I have no clue. Allergic to not being on the road anymore. So what's my takeaway? My takeaway is use what you already have, and really focus on it and build up your business account so that, because when you first start, you really do have to use whatever's available. What can I find? What can I make work? You got to use it. You got to start with that. But it's a huge mistake to continue in that mindset. So when you first start, you use what you got. But you don't want to just start buying from there whatever's in front of you next that looks like it will do the job. And especially if you feel pressured into, I need this for this job. Think about it. Do you really need it? This is me talking mostly to myself. Think about it. Is this really the best investment I can make? Do I possibly have something already that can serve the purpose that I need it to serve? Be intentional. Again, if you're starting from almost nothing or from nothing, you have to start with what you can get your hands on. But from that moment forward, be intentional. Because that mindset that caused you to be starting from almost nothing is not going to be the same mindset that allows you to grow into a big, successful, thriving business. Take away the sense of obligation, do what's actually right for your business. Think about it logically, and don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to turn down jobs, because if the job makes you X amount of money, but it costs you X amount of money times 10, and you're just kind of hoping that you get more jobs like it that will justify the expense, think about it first. I'm not saying it might not be worth it. That might in fact be true. But think about it first. Is this really beneficial to me, or do I just feel pressured for this one job? And is there a way that I can better spend my money to accomplish this job, to do this job, to maybe even make an investment that allows me to do the job, but also be better set up for future jobs than if I, select something solely thinking about this one job? What is the overlap between this job and other jobs that I'm likely to get or want to get? And how do I buy equipment that works for all of them and also works for my vision for my business And in my case, the vision for my business is to keep the overhead costs low and keep the operations simple so that more of what I earn can actually be saved. And you need to like have a Venn diagram where all those things come together and not focus only on one of them. Where's the overlap in the middle where I'm getting what I need to do this job, but I'm also getting what I need to run my business the way that I want to run it in general, and I'm also getting what I need to do the other jobs that are likely to happen. All of those things need to overlap. That's that equipment that fits in that space where those three things overlap. That's the equipment you need to buy. And you need to not be afraid to tell your customer, your potential customer, there might be a delay. I might not be able to do it because I'm not going to throw my money at something that only serves me for that one job. And if it costs more to buy the thing that's going to be effective for all the jobs that I'm going to get in the future and want to be doing in the future, then I'm just going to need to wait until I can spend a little more money and get that equipment. So I think that is my takeaway here. Obviously, history is never going to repeat itself exactly, but there can sometimes be corollaries, and I hope that I'm better equipped now to see the correlations and to make smart decisions that benefit my business, because I don't want another 292 days and getting to the end of it and saying that I'm doing a hard restart. I want 292 days and I get to the end of it and I say, wow, I have $17,000 saved up, or more than $17,000 saved up, because I had a lot of the same successes, but I didn't make a lot of the same mistakes. And that's kind of a position where you look back and you're like, wow, I'd love to be there right now. And it can be discouraging to realize that, I could have been there if only, if only, if only. Well, it's also encouraging because it's like, okay, let's apply all of those if onlys now. And 292 days from now, in theory, I should be able to be there. And it's not going to be easy. I already see ways in which I'm, continuing to spend the money out of that sense of obligation. And I really need to have some heart-to-hearts with myself about that. And I'm not making a definitive decision about any of those things right now. I have one more payment left on the houseboat. The houseboat doesn't benefit my business in any way right now. Do I want to make that? Do I want to let it go? I have one more payment on the house rental. And then actually two more. But then after that, I have my last month's rent, which is already covered. And then I have, or should have, my security deposit coming back. So effectively, the cost to me, $1,400 over the next 2 months, $700 over the next 4 months after getting $700 back. Actually, I think $675, but close enough. But do I want to do that? Is it worth hanging on to that asset when there's a bunch of drama surrounding the person I'm sharing that rental with anyway, and a little bit with the landlord as well? Or do I want to try to smooth over that drama and try to work something out? Or do I want to kind of stand firm and I'm not going to throw away another $700 next month and another $700, even though I should get it back the following month, and in doing so create a little bit more drama, or what they would see as drama? Or do I want to just be like, there's options there. There's things I need to think about, and there are reasons that I or anybody makes the decisions that we make, even when they're not effective. So it's not like it's just as easy as saying, oh yeah, I learned a bunch of things and now I'm going to choose completely different actions. No, those actions that I chose and the similar actions that apply today, they're compelling for one reason or another. And I need to get to the bottom of why is it compelling, and is it worth being compelling, or is there a more compelling argument to let go of a couple things to just really accelerate getting to that point where I'm putting that money aside instead of spending it. But at the same time, with only a couple payments left on both those things, do I really want to rock the boat over 1 or 2 payments, or can I just ride it out and maybe even find a positive in it? Or maybe, trying to find a positive in everything really just is delusional and prevents you from moving on when you need to. Those are hard questions to answer. So I thank you for watching this video. I hope you found something, insightful or helpful or interesting in it. And I will catch you next time. Keep following along for day 2 and day 3 takes 2. I'm excited for it.